Your relationship with money started long before your first paycheck. Let's talk about why. When income changes, reducing an established lifestyle can feel like losing part of normal life. The old spending level may no longer fit, yet every reduction can feel like deprivation rather than adjustment. The pattern becomes clearer here. Past affordability becomes the comparison point. The present is judged against what was once ordinary, not only against what current income and priorities can support. The central question is why living within present means can feel like moving backward when the previous lifestyle has become emotionally defined as normal. Dining habits, housing, transport, leisure, and convenience can all become familiar reference points, making a lower level feel visibly smaller even when it remains workable. This episode will separate the past spending baseline from present financial capacity, then show how adaptation can occur without turning reduction into a moral achievement. Higher spending often develops gradually while income opportunity or confidence expands. Each change may feel reasonable when considered on its own. Over time, the collection of choices becomes a lifestyle. What once felt optional can become the environment through which ordinary comfort and identity are understood. When circumstances change, the financial need to adjust may be clear. The emotional system, however, still compares every choice with the previous standard. Now, reductions are experienced one by one, fewer conveniences, simpler routines, less space, or delayed purchases. Each difference makes the direction of change noticeable. The person may then protect old spending to preserve continuity, even while the resulting pressure becomes more difficult to ignore. This is not a character flaw. A familiar standard can become a reference point, and movement below it can be experienced as loss. The key distinction is this: past spending shows what was supported before, while present capacity shows what can be supported now. Neither number defines personal worth. Reference point anchoring occurs when the earlier lifestyle becomes the baseline for evaluating the current one, regardless of how circumstances have changed. Loss aversion can make reductions below that baseline feel more painful than equivalent increases once felt rewarding, especially when several changes arrive together. The financial problem and the emotional problem are related but separate. One concerns sustainable allocation. The other concerns what the reduction appears to mean. A lower spending level can be interpreted as reduced success, reduced freedom, or evidence that life is moving in the wrong direction. Identity can strengthen the anchor when the previous lifestyle represented independence, professional progress, generosity, taste, or membership in a valued social world. The adjustment then threatens more than convenience. It may appear to revise the story of who the person is and what their effort has achieved. The current decision should be separated from the past one. The relevant question is what present resources can support, not whether the earlier lifestyle deserved to exist. Anchoring directs attention toward removed experiences while making retained value less visible. The new routine is evaluated mainly through absence. A home-cooked meal can be experienced only as the loss of dining out, rather than as a different way to meet the same need. A smaller space may be judged against the previous home instead of being assessed for comfort, location, maintenance, and fit with current circumstances. That comparison can make every adjustment feel inadequate. The new choice begins as a downgraded version of the old one rather than a complete arrangement of its own. The response can follow a recognizable pattern. Protecting past spending postpones the emotional acknowledgement that the reference point has changed. Pressure may then be distributed across savings, debt, flexibility, or future choices while visible lifestyle continuity remains intact. At this point, old spending functions partly as identity protection. Understand the mechanism, then separate maintenance or reduction from moral judgment. The financial consequence includes more than current expense. It includes reduced ability to respond to uncertainty, rebuild capacity, or support priorities that now matter more. Some spending categories may be protected automatically because they have always been present even when their practical contribution has changed. Others may carry social meaning. Reducing them can feel like withdrawing from relationships or routines that once confirmed belonging and success. Past affordability can also be mistaken for permanent entitlement. A previous level feels deserved, so any lower level appears unfair even when conditions differ. A person may try to preserve every category equally, avoiding the harder task of distinguishing essential value, identity value, convenience, and habit. The mechanism is not simply overspending, it is the emotional difficulty of accepting a new baseline while the old baseline remains vivid and familiar. It may be strongest after sudden income change, retirement, career transition, relocation, or any event that compresses several spending adjustments into one period. Awareness can clarify the anchor, but it does not erase grief for the previous lifestyle. Adaptation may include real disappointment alongside practical reassessment. A rational exception matters. Some past spending protects health, caregiving, safety, mobility, professional capacity, or relationships, and may deserve priority despite reduced income. Essential value is personal and situational. A category that appears optional from outside may solve a recurring problem that would be costly to replace. Some reductions can also create larger downstream costs. Lower price alone does not prove better value when reliability, location, or time burden changes. The limitation matters here. Adaptation should not become indiscriminate austerity. Cutting every comfort can damage sustainability and make the new arrangement harder to maintain. Not every preserved expense reflects anchoring. Some categories remain intentional because their benefit is specific, high, and aligned with present priorities. Imagine two households keeping the same costly routine. One depends on it for caregiving logistics. The other keeps it mainly because changing would feel like lost status. The validating test is present function. What problem does the expense solve now? What alternative exists? And what part of resistance comes from the old baseline? The opening question can now be answered. Living within present means feels like deprivation when past spending has become the emotional definition of normal. The reduction is then compared with the previous lifestyle rather than with present stability, available alternatives, and the priorities the adjustment can protect. The past lifestyle does not need to be condemned. It may have been appropriate, enjoyable, and affordable under earlier conditions. Present adjustment also does not erase achievement. It changes allocation in response to a different environment, not the value of the person making the change. Consider the next decision separately. Identify current capacity, present priorities, essential functions, and the identity meanings attached to each spending category. Build the new arrangement as a complete system rather than a damaged copy of the old one. Ask what combination works now. Retained comforts can be chosen deliberately. Adaptation becomes more sustainable when some valued experiences remain instead of every category being reduced automatically. Current utility includes function, time, reliability, connection, and emotional restoration. Each category should be named so identity and habit do not hide inside necessity. The resolution is not that reducing spending is always correct. It is that the old reference point should not decide every present allocation by default. Begin by separating fixed obligations, essential functions, flexible comforts, and symbolic spending. The categories may overlap, but naming them improves the comparison. Compare each expense with current alternatives, not only with its previous version. A different routine may provide value that the loss-focused comparison initially overlooks. The pattern becomes clearer here. Notice whether resistance concerns practical harm, temporary adjustment, social visibility, or the feeling of moving backward. Protect expenses with specific present value. A changed income does not require abandoning every service, relationship, or comfort that supports a workable life. Reduce categories whose strongest function is preserving the appearance of the old baseline while creating pressure across more important priorities. Allow adaptation to develop through repeated experience. A simpler routine may feel unfamiliar before it begins to feel complete in its own right. Review the new arrangement through stability, function, and alignment rather than through comparison alone. The current decision should be separated from the past one. A spending level is a response to circumstances, not a permanent identity. Intentional change can preserve dignity without preserving every previous expense. The baseline can move without erasing your history. Understand the pattern, change the behavior. See you next time.